finally unlocked the UMP9!
Oh my god! It sucks!
Oh my god! I don't care if it sucks, I finally got it!
What is going on, guys? Craig1287 here, and as you heard in that opening, I finally have unlocked the UMP9. I got it on Sunday, this past Sunday, yesterday, when playing with the TG guys, and finally then equipped it and rocked it out. And I've heard very mixed things about the UMP9, but I'm actually very impressed, fairly impressed, by the UMP9's performance. It actually handles quite like a Carbine, more so than what the usual PDWs are. But that doesn't say too much, because the PDW class is probably the most varied class of weapons in the game. But the UMP9, it's very similar to, I would say, the AK-5C, which is probably the most widely used carbine, not only because it's, well, one of the first ones to be unlocked, but also because its stats are fairly liked by a lot of people. It's a very easy gun to use. And I'm looking at simthic.com, and for the most part, the UMP9 is very similar to the AK-5C, but it's actually a little better. And it would make sense, it's a little better of a close range weapon. And so let's kind of look at some of the stats here. Damage wise, it's the same. It has a slightly longer damage drop off, but it doesn't matter too much. Their rate of fires are identical at 700 rounds per minute. Probably the biggest advantage that the AK-5C has over the UMP9 is the muzzle velocity. The UMP9 has a muzzle velocity of 370, and the AK-5C has a velocity of 630. So almost twice as much. That's going to make it easier to hit moving targets at range. But you're probably not going to be using either of these guns at that greater range. So while it is nice, it's probably not something that you're going to notice too often. For the reload times, the AK-5C has a very slight faster empty reload time, but their reload time for the quick reload are identical at 1.85 seconds. But this is interesting. The recoil for the UMP9 is 0.26 up, 0.2 left, and 0.2 right. And the AK-5C also has a 0.2 left and right recoil. However, it has a vertical recoil and up recoil of 0.32. So that's 0.26 versus 0.32. So it's only 0.06 higher on the AK-5C. But it doesn't just end there. The UMP9 has a recoil decrease of 20 versus the 18 on the AK-5C. Again, very slight. But that means that it's going to be resetting close to the zero starting point just a little bit, so that makes it easier to burst. But also, the first shot recoil multiplier is a 1.5 multiplier on the UMP9, whereas it is a 1.65 multiplier on the AK-5C. Again, very, very subtle, but when you combine these things with the less recoil up, with the better recoil decrease after each shot, and the lower first shot recoil multiplier, what you get is a gun that does quite well at range when aiming down sight. Also, when it comes to the actual bullet spread, when ADSing and moving, the UMP9 is slightly higher, as a 0.4 spread versus 0.3, so that's fairly significant, that's 33%. But when ADSing and moving, they're both at 0.8, and then for hip fire on pretty much everything except for prone, the UMP9 beats out the AK-5C. It's 1 versus 2, 1 versus 1.5, 1.5 versus 2.5, 1.25 versus 2, 1.25 versus 1.5. So, and those, I mean, obviously I didn't tell you what those are, but you can just tell from the numbers alone that in some of those categories it's half or almost half as much. So that makes it a fantastic weapon for hip fire, for that close quarters. So, and then for the recoil, it has a recoil decrease. So, and that will help in the hip fire, because it makes it to where your hip fire your crosshairs are going to be recentering back to the 0 starting point just ever so quicker. So yeah, the UMP9 is actually a very solid gun. I look forward to getting a bunch more unlocks for it. I don't have that many yet, but I can already tell that it's going to be, aside from that muzzle velocity, it's going to be very comparable to the AK-5C. So if you guys are engineers and you're looking for a good weapon that can fill that carbine role, but also still maintaining fantastic hip fire, then the UMP9 probably a good one to go with. It takes a while to unlock, as I just now got it after hundreds of hours of play, and you got to do a lot of squad repairs, and I mean, it's I don't know, it's definitely worth putting in the effort, putting in all the squad repairs to get this weapon. I could actually see this becoming one of my most used PDWs. So guys, hope you enjoyed the gameplay going on there in the background, and hope you enjoyed my somewhat calm commentary. I am very exhausted, did a good bit of yard work today, so just been an exhausting day. I can't believe I even unlocked this weapon and had a great night that I had. I thought I was going to do horrible that night playing with the TG guys because my arms were just utterly destroyed from the yard work. But ended up having a fantastic night and got the UMP9, which was just icing on the cake. Also, guys, don't forget to check out episode 2 of the Battlefield Friends. This one taking a look at the counterknife. Quite a humorous episode, so I will have a link to that in the video description down below, as well as a link to the stats for the UMP9 in its comparison to the AK-5C, just to make it easy for you to go and check that out and look at the stats if you're quite the fond AK-5C user and are looking for an alternative when playing as the engineer. So hope you guys have enjoyed all of it. Have a good one. Ta-ta.